The hospital room smelled of antiseptic and regret. A sterile cage where my past lay shattered. I woke to a world that didn't know me. My name Elliot Carter scrawled on a chart, but meaningless in my hollow mind. A man sat by my bed, his brown eyes searching mine. Desperate, as if I held the key to his heart in my fractured skull. Elliot. It's me. Noah. He whispered, voice cracking like thin ice. His hands hovered over mine, afraid to touch, as if I might break again. I stared at him, this stranger who claimed to know me. His face a map of grief I couldn't read. Amnesia had stolen everything me memories. My identity. My life. The doctor said a car accident had rewired my brain, leaving me a blank slate at 25. Noah, they told me, was my boyfriend of 3 years. But the word felt foreign, like a language I'd never learned. I wanted to feel something. Anything. For this man who looked at me like I was his whole world. But my heart was a locked door, and the key was lost in the wreckage of my mind. I'm sorry, I said, my voice flat, unfamiliar. I don't know you. Noah's face crumpled, but he forced a smile, the kind that hit 1,000 wounds. That's okay, he said softly. We'll figure it out. Together. His optimism was a lifeline, but I couldn't grab it. Not yet. The next morning, they discharged me from St. Luke's Hospital in New York City. Noah drove me to what he said was our apartment in Brooklyn. A cramped but cozy space filled with photos of us lawing at Coney Island, kissing under Christmas lights, hiking in the Catskills. Each image was a stab, proof of a life I'd lived but couldn't claim. Noah moved carefully, like he was handling glass, pointing out my favorite coffee mug, the books I'd loved, the guitar I used to play. I nodded, pretending to care, but it was all noise. A story about someone else. He cooked dinner that night, spaghetti with marinara, my supposed favorite. We sat at a small wooden table, the silence heavy. You always said my sauce was better than your mom's, Noah said, a hopeful spark in his eyes. I forced a smile, chewing mechanically. The food tasted like nothing, like my life. Days bled into weeks. Noah was patient, relentless in his kindness. He told me stories how we met at a dive bar in the East Village, how I'd proposed to him on a snowy bridge in Central Park, how we dreamed of opening a bookstore together. Each tale was a brick in a wall I couldn't climb. I wanted to love him, to feel the warmth he swore we'd shared. But my heart was a ghost town, empty and echoing. One night, I found a journal in a drawer, my handwriting scrawled across the pages. Noah's laugh is the best sound in the world, like sunlight breaking through clouds. I read it over and over, willing the words to spark something. They didn't. I slammed the journal shut, my chest tight with frustration. Why couldn't I feel it? Why couldn't I be the man he loved? Noah caught me staring at the journal. You wrote that the night we moved in, he said, sitting beside me on the couch. His voice was soft, but his eyes were storms. You said you'd never forget how I made you feel. Then why can't I remember? I snapped, hating the edge in my voice. Noah flinched but didn't retreat. He never did. Because you're still you, Elliot, he said. Even if you don't know it yet. I wanted to believe him, but doubt was my only truth. The city outside our window buzzed with life taxis honking, streetlights flickering, but inside, I was stuck, a stranger in my own skin. Noah deserved better than this hollow version of me. I didn't know how to tell him that. The next day, Noah suggested a walk in Prospect Park. It was our place, he said, his voice laced with hope. I agreed, if only to escape the suffocating weight of our apartment. The park was alive with joggers, kids, and couples, their laughter a cruel reminder of what I'd lost. Noah pointed out a bench under an oak tree. We carved our initials there, he said, tracing the faded E+N etched into the wood. My fingers brushed the carving, searching for a memory, a feeling. Nothing came. I'm trying. Noah, I said, my voice barely above a whisper. I swear I am. I know, he said, his hand grazing mine. For a moment, I didn't pull away. His touch was warm, grounding, but it wasn't enough to anchor me. That night, I lay awake, Noah's steady breathing beside me. I stared at the ceiling, wondering who I'd been before the accident. The man Noah loved sounded brave, passionate, alive. I was none of those things now. I was a shadow, and shadows couldn't love. Weeks turned into months, and the distance between us grew. Noah never stopped trying, leaving notes on the fridge, playing my favorite songs, cooking meals I didn't taste. But every effort felt like a plea, and I had nothing to give back. I started avoiding him, staying late at the coffee shop where I'd taken a job to fill the empty hours. The baristas didn't know the old Elliot, didn't look at me with pity or expectation. It was freedom, however small. One evening, I came home to find Noah packing a bag. His eyes were red, his jaw tight. I'm going to stay with my sister for a while, he said, voice steady but brittle. I think you need space. My stomach dropped. Noah, I don't. He cut me off, softer than I deserved. I can't keep watching you try to love me when you don't even know who you are. He zipped the bag, his hands trembling. I'll be back. I need to breathe. He walked out, the door clicking shut like a gunshot. I stood frozen, the apartment suffocatingly quiet. For the first time since the accident, something stirred in men at love. Not memory, but loss. Raw, aching loss. I sank onto the couch, clutching the journal I'd found months ago. I flipped to a random page, my handwriting staring back at me. Noah's the only home I'll ever need. The words burned, not because I remembered writing them, but because I wanted them to be true. I didn't know if I could ever be the man Noah loved. But as the city hummed outside, I made a choice. I'd fight to find him, not the old Elliot, but someone new. Someone who could love Noah again. The days without Noah were a blur of gray. Our Brooklyn apartment, once warm with his presence, felt like a museum of someone else's life. I wandered through it, touching objects, a chipped mug, a dog-eared copy of The Great Gatsby, hoping they'd spark something. They didn't. The silence was louder than the city outside, and for the first time, I realized how much Noah's hope had been holding me up. I kept working at the coffee shop, steaming milk and forcing smiles for strangers. The routine was numbing, but it kept me from drowning in the void of my own head. My coworkers asked no questions, and I offered no answers. But every night, as I locked up and walked home through the neon-lit streets, Noah's absence was a weight in my chest. One afternoon, a customer left behind a sketchbook. I flipped through it, expecting doodles, but found detailed drawings of couples holding hands, kids chasing pigeons, an old man feeding ducks. The sketches were alive, each line pulsing with emotion. On the last page, a note, if found, return to Mia, 212-555-0192. I called the number, and a woman's voice answered, bright and relieved. Oh, Thank God. Can you meet me at Prospect Park tomorrow? Mia was Noah's sister. I learned when we met by the same bench where Noah had shown me our initials. She was short, with his same warm brown eyes, and her hug caught me off guard. Noah told me about you, she said, clutching the sketchbook. He said you're finding your way back. I didn't know what to say. Finding my way back felt like chasing a ghost. He's staying with you, right? I asked, my voice tight. Is he okay? Mia's smile faded. He's hurting, Elliot. He loves you so much. But he's scared you'll never. She stopped, biting her lip. He's at my place in Queens. You should talk to him. I nodded, but fear rooted me in place. What could I say? That I was sorry for not remembering. That I was trying to love a man I didn't know. Mia squeezed my arm. Just try? That's all he's ever wanted. That night, I sat with my journal again, reading entries I didn't remember writing. Noah's smile could stop time. I'd marry him tomorrow if he'd let me. The words were a stranger's, but they stirred something to flicker. Not a memory, but a longing to feel what I'd lost. I grabbed my phone and texted Noah, "Can we talk? I miss you." The words felt like a lie, but they weren't. I missed the idea of him, the man who'd loved me enough to stay through my emptiness. He replied hours later, "Tomorrow. Our bench. 6 p.m." My heart thudded, a mix of dread and hope. I didn't know what I'd say, but I knew I had to try. The next evening, I arrived at Prospect Park early, the air crisp with autumn. Noah was already there, sitting on our bench, staring at the carved E+N. His dark hair fell into his eyes, and he looked smaller, like the weight of us had worn him down. I sat beside him, leaving space. "Hey," I said, my voice barely audible. "Hey," he echoed, not looking at me. The silence stretched, heavy with everything we couldn't say. Finally, he spoke. "I thought I could handle this, Elliot. Watching you try to remember me. But it's like losing you every day." His words cut deeper than I expected. "I'm sorry," I said, the same useless words I'd said 100 times. "I don't know how to fix this." "You don't have to fix it," he said, his voice breaking. "I just need to know if you're still in there. The Elliot I love." I wanted to scream that I didn't know, that I was drowning in the absence of myself. Instead, I reached for his hand, my fingers trembling. "I'm trying. Noah." I read the journal. "I see how much I loved you. I want to feel it again." He looked at me then, his eyes searching mine like they had in the hospital. "Do you?" he asked, barely a whisper. "Do you feel anything?" I swallowed, my throat tight. "I feel something. When you're here. When you're not. It's not enough. But it's real." Noah's hand tightened around mine, and for a moment, we were just two people on a bench. Not a broken man and the one who loved him. "That's enough for now," he said. We walked back to the apartment together, not talking much, but the silence felt differentless, like a wall, more like a bridge. Noah stayed that night, sleeping on the couch. I lay in bed, staring at the ceiling, wondering if the flicker in my chest could grow into something more. The next morning, Noah suggested therapy, not just for me, but for us. "Maybe it'll help," he said over coffee, his voice cautious but hopeful. I agreed, if only to keep him close. We found a therapist in Manhattan, Dr. Lena Ruiz, who specialized in trauma and memory loss. She was kind but direct. Her office a safe haven of soft blues and warm light. Amnesia doesn't erase who you are, she told us in our first session. It buries it. Elliot, your feelings for Noah might still be there. Locked away. We just need to find the key. She gave us exercises writing letters to each other, revisiting places we'd been, talking about the future instead of the past. Noah wrote me a letter that night, his handwriting neat and deliberate. I fell in love with your courage, your laugh, the way you made every moment brighter. I'm still here, waiting for you. I read it alone, my chest aching with something I couldn't name. I wrote back, my words clumsy. I don't know who I am without you. I'm scared I'll never be enough. I didn't show it to him. Not yet. But writing it felt like a step. Like I was reaching for the man I used to be. Weeks passed, and we settled into a fragile rhythm. Therapy helped, but it was Noah's stubborn hope that kept me going. He'd catch my eye sometimes, smiling like he saw something I couldn't. One night, he played a song on the guitar Wonderwall. He said, "Our song." I didn't remember it, but the chords stirred something, a warmth I couldn't explain. "Keep going," I said when he stopped. He played until his fingers bled, and I realized I was smiling, really smiling, for the first time since the accident. It wasn't love, not yet, but it was close. The flicker in my chest grew, but it was unsteady, like a candle in a storm. Noah and I were trying, but every step forward felt like a tightrope walk over a chasm. Some days, I'd catch myself laughing at his terrible puns, feeling a spark of something real. Other days, the weight of my empty mind crushed me, and I'd retreat into silence, leaving Noah to pick up the pieces. Dr. Ruiz pushed us to explore our past, but gently. Don't force the memories, she said. Build new ones. So we did. Noah took me to the East Village bar where we'd met, a dive called the Rusty Anchor. The place smelled of stale beer and nostalgia, its walls plastered with band posters. Noah pointed to a corner booth. "You spilled your drink on me there," he said, grinning. "Then you bought me a new shirt to apologize." I tried to picture it me, carefree, charming a stranger with a clumsy mistake. But the image wouldn't form. Instead, I watched Noah, his eyes bright with the memory, and felt a pang. Not love, but envy for the man I'd been, the one who'd won his heart. "Let's make a new memory," I said, surprising myself. I ordered us shots of whiskey, and we toasted to starting over. The burn of the liquor matched the heat in my chest when Noah smiled, his fingers brushing mine on the bar. For a moment, I wasn't the broken man with no past. I was just Elliot. Here. Now. With him. But the past wasn't done with us. One night, I found a box under the bed, stuffed with letters, photos, and ticket stubs. Noah's handwriting was on most of them. Love notes from years I couldn't recall. One letter stopped me cold. "Elliot, if I ever lose you, I'll lose myself. Don't let me go." It was dated a month before the accident. I sat on the floor, the letter trembling in my hands, guilt clawing at me. I was letting him go, wasn't I? Every day I couldn't remember was a betrayal. Noah found me there, his face paling when he saw the box. "I forgot that was there," he said, kneeling beside me. "You don't have to read those." "I want to." I lied. I didn't want to, but I needed to. Needed to understand the weight of what I'd lost. We read together, his voice steady as he recounted the stories behind each note. A trip to Niagara Falls. A fight over whose turn it was to do dishes. A promise to grow old together. Each word was a brick, rebuilding the man I'd been. But it also widened the gap between us. Still in love with that man. Me. A stranger wearing his face. I'm not him, I said finally, my voice raw. The Elliot you love's gone. Noah's eyes glistened. You're still him. You're just lost. And I'm not giving up on you. His words were a lifeline, but they also burned. How long could he keep loving a ghost? I didn't ask, afraid of the answer. Instead, I leaned into him, my forehead against his shoulder. He didn't pull away. Winter settled over New York, the city wrapped in snow and silence. Noah and I kept up our routine therapy. Walks. Small moments that felt like progress. One night, he convinced me to go ice skating at Rockefeller Center. You were terrible at this, he teased, lacing up my skates. But you loved it. I wobbled onto the ice, clinging to the railing. Noah glided beside me, steady and sure, catching me when I nearly fell. His laugh echoed in the cold air. And for a second, I forgot I was broken. I forgot I didn't remember. I just wanted to keep him laughing. See, he said, his breath visible in the frosty air. You're still you. I wanted to believe him, but doubt was my shadow. Later, at home, I found another journal entry. Noah makes me want to be better. Always has. I stared at the words, willing them to unlock something. They didn't. But they planted a seed of determination to be more than the husk I'd become. Then came the call that changed everything. It was February. The city still buried in snow. Noah's phone rang while we were cooking dinner, and his face drained of color as he listened. It's my dad, he said after hanging up. He's sick. Cancer. They don't know how long. I didn't know what to say. I didn't remember his dad. Didn't know their history. But the pain in Noah's eyes was real, and it cut me deeper than my own emptiness. I have to go to Chicago, he said. Just for a week. Will you be okay? I'll be fine, I said. But the truth was, I didn't know. The thought of him leaving, even for a week, made my chest ache. Not because I remembered loving him, but because I was starting to. He left the next morning, his hug lingering longer than usual. Call me if you need me, he said, his voice thick. I nodded, unable to speak. The apartment felt like a tomb without him. I spent the week alone, reading his letters, listening to Wonderwall on repeat, trying to piece together the man I'd been. I wrote in the journal, not memories, but truths. I don't know if I love Noah yet, but I'm terrified of losing him. It was the most honest thing I'd written. When Noah called, his voice was heavy with exhaustion. Dad's stable, but it's bad, he said. I might need to stay longer. Stay as long as you need, I said, surprising myself with how much I meant it. I'm here. He was quiet for a long moment. Thank you, Elliot. I hung up, my heart pounding. For the first time, I wasn't just trying to remember. I was trying to build something new. Noah stayed in Chicago for 3 weeks, and the distance carved a hollow in me I hadn't expected. Our nightly calls became my anchor, his voice, tired but warm, pulling me through the fog of my mind. He talked about his dad's treatment, his mom's quiet strength, the hospital's fluorescent hum. I listened, offering clumsy words of comfort, wishing I could be more than a voice on the phone. I miss you, he said one night, so softly I almost missed it. My breath caught. I wanted to say it back, to mean it the way he did, but the word stuck. Instead, I said, "I'm waiting for you." It wasn't enough, but it was true. Back in Brooklyn, I kept up with therapy, meeting Dr. Ruiz alone. "You're building a new connection with Noah," she said, her eyes kind but probing. "That's progress. Don't underestimate it." She gave me a new exercise, write about the future, not the past. What did I want with Noah? I didn't know, but I sat at our kitchen table, pen in hand, and tried. I want to make Noah laugh again. I want to hold his hand without wondering if it's right. I want to be enough. The words felt fragile, but they were mine. I tucked the notebook away, not ready to share them. When Noah returned, he looked worn, his eyes shadowed with grief. I hugged him at the airport, my arms awkward but earnest. "How's your dad?" I asked, guiding him to the car. "Hanging in there," he said, his voice tight. "But it's hard." He didn't elaborate, and I didn't push. Instead, I drove us home, the city's lights blurring past. At the apartment, he dropped his bag and sank onto the couch, pulling me down beside him. "I'm glad you're here," he said, his head resting against mine. For the first time, I didn't question the warmth in my chest. I let it be. Spring crept into New York, the city shedding its winter skin. Noah and I fell into a new rhythm, cautious but hopeful. We took walks in Central Park, ate street tacos in the village, watched old movies on our creaky couch. Each moment was a brick in something new, not the love we'd had, but something real, something ours. One afternoon, Noah suggested visiting his sister, Mia, in Queens. "She's been asking about you," he said, a shy smile tugging at his lips. I agreed, nervous but curious. Mia's apartment was a burst of color paintings on the walls, plants spilling over every surface. She hugged me like we were old friends, her warmth disarming. "You too are disgusting," she teased as Noah slung an arm around me. All this pining and longing. I laughed, surprised by how easy it felt. Mia showed me her latest sketches, including one of Noah and me at the park bench. "I saw you there," she said. "You looked like you were finding each other again." Her words stayed with me, a quiet hope. That night, Noah and I cooked dinner with Mia, the kitchen filled with laughter and chaos. I caught Noah watching me, his eyes soft, and I realized I was smiling without trying. It wasn't the past, but it was enough. Then came the setback. A letter arrived from the hospital, a follow-up about my recovery. The doctor wanted to run more tests, warning that some memory loss could be permanent. I read it alone, the words blurring as panic set in. What if I never remembered? What if I could never give Noah what he deserved? I didn't tell him at first, carrying the fear like a stone. But Noah knew me too well, even this version of me. "What's wrong?" he asked one night, catching me staring out the window. I handed him the letter, my hand shaking. "They say I might never get it back," I said. "The old Elliot. Our life." Noah read the letter, his face unreadable. Then he set it down and took my hands. "I don't need the old Elliot," he said. "I need you. This you. The one who's trying." His words broke something in me. A dam I hadn't known was there. I pulled him close, burying my face in his shoulder. "I'm so scared," I whispered. "I don't want to let you down." "You won't," he said, his voice steady. "You never have." We stayed like that, tangled together, until the city's hum faded to nothing. For the first time, I believed I could be enough, not the man I'd been, but the man I was becoming. The next day, Noah suggested a trip to Coney Island, a place we'd loved before the accident. Let's make it ours again, he said. The boardwalk was alive with summer's promise kids screaming on rides. The ocean's salt heavy in the air. Noah bought us cotton candy, laughing as it stuck to my chin. I didn't remember the old trips, but this one felt right. Like a memory we were riding together. We sat on the beach, the waves lapping at our feet. Noah leaned against me, his warmth grounding. I love you, he said, not looking at me. It wasn't a plea or a question, just a truth. I didn't say it back. Not yet. But I squeezed his hand, hoping it was enough. The sun dipped low, painting the sky in pinks and golds. And I thought, this is what love could be. Summer in New York was a fever dream, humid, vibrant, alive. Noah and I leaned into it, chasing moments that felt like ours. We'd wander the city, from the High Line's green sprawl to hole-in-the-wall diners in Chinatown, building a new map of us. But the hospital's letter lingered in my mind, a shadow I couldn't shake. What if my memories never came back? What if this was all I could offer, a half-formed love, rooted in effort rather than instinct? Noah sensed my fear, though I tried to hide it. He'd catch my eye during quiet moments, his gaze steady, like he could see the man I was afraid I'd never be. You're enough, he'd say, simple but fierce. I wanted to believe him, but doubt was a tide, pulling me under. Dr. Ruiz suggested a new approach, focus on my emotions, not my memories. You're feeling things for Noah now, she said. Explore that. Let it grow. So I did, in small ways. I'd leave notes for Noah, thanks for making coffee. You're kind of great. And watch his face light up when he found them. I'd hold his hand on the subway, not because I remembered doing it before, but because it felt right now. One night, we went to a rooftop bar in Williamsburg, the city's skyline glittering below. Noah wore a blue shirt that made his eyes glow, and I couldn't stop staring. What? He asked, catching me. You're beautiful, I said, the words slipping out before I could stop them. His smile was instant, bright, and for a moment, I felt whole. But wholeness was fleeting. A week later, Noah got another call from Chicago. His dad's condition had worsened, and he needed to go back. Come with me, he said, his voice urgent. Meet my family. Be with me. I froze. Meeting his family meant stepping into a world I didn't know, facing people who'd expect me to be the Elliot they remembered. I don't know if I'm ready, I admitted, hating the fear in my voice. Noah's face fell, but he nodded. Okay. I'll be back soon. He left the next day, and the apartment felt hollow again. I threw myself into work, picking up extra shifts at the coffee shop. But the emptiness followed me. I kept writing in the journal, spilling my fears. I want to love Noah the way he deserves. But what if I can't? What if I'm always half a man? A week into his absence, Mia called. Noah's struggling, she said. Dad's not doing well, and he's trying to be strong. But he needs you. Her words hit like a punch. Noah had been my anchor, but I hadn't been his. Not really. I booked a flight to Chicago that night, my hands shaking as I packed. I didn't know if I was ready, but I couldn't let Noah face this alone. The flight was a blur, my mind racing with what-ifs. When I landed, Mia met me at the airport, her hug fierce. "You're doing the right thing," she said. She drove me to the hospital, where Noah was sitting in the waiting room, head in his hands. He looked up, shock flashing across his face. "Elliot." I crossed the room in 3 steps, pulling him into my arms. "I'm here," I said, my voice rough. "I'm not leaving you." He clung to me, his body trembling. "I didn't think you'd come," he whispered. "I had to," I said. And I meant it. Noah's dad, Michael, was in a private room, his face gaunt but kind. He smiled when he saw me, weak but genuine. "So you're the guy my son won't shut up about," he said, his voice raspy. I laughed, surprised, and Noah's hand found mine, squeezing tight. We spent the day with his family, his mom, Sarah, warm and quiet, Mia, sketching in the corner, his dad, drifting in and out of sleep. I didn't know them, but they treated me like I belonged. Noah stayed close, his shoulder brushing mine, and I realized I was starting to know him, not the Noah from before, but the one beside me now, brave and breaking. That night, we stayed at Mia's apartment, sharing a pull-out couch. Noah curled against me, his breathing uneven. "I'm scared," he admitted. "I don't know how to do this without Dad." "You don't have to," I said, my hand in his hair. "I'm here." He looked at me, eyes searching. "Why did you come?" "Because you need me," I said. "And because I think I'm starting to love you." The words hung between us, raw and real. Noah's eyes filled with tears, but he smiled, pressing his forehead to mine. "That's enough," he said. We fell asleep like that, tangled together, the hospital's weight still heavy but shared. For the first time, I felt like I was building something, not just chasing a ghost. Chicago stretched into weeks, the hospital a second home. Noah's dad stabilized, but the prognosis was grim months, maybe less. Noah was a rock for his family, but I saw the cracks, the way his hands shook when he thought no one was watching, the way he'd stare out the window, lost. I couldn't fix it, but I could be there, holding his hand through the long nights, listening when he needed to talk, staying silent when he didn't. I was learning him, piece by piece. The way he took his coffee black but stole sips of my latte. The way he hummed when he was nervous, a tune I didn't recognize but was starting to love. The way he'd smile at me, soft and unguarded, like I was his safe place. It wasn't the love we'd had before, but it was ours, growing stronger every day. One afternoon, Michael called me to his bedside. Noah was with his mom, and the room was quiet, just the beep of monitors. "You're good for him," Michael said, his voice weak but clear. "He's always been strong, but you make him stronger." I didn't know what to say. I wasn't the man Noah had loved. Not fully. But Michael's eyes held no doubt. "Don't let him go," he said. "He won't let you go either." I nodded, my throat tight. "I won't." Back in New York, we settled into a new normal. Noah's dad was stable enough for him to return, but we flew to Chicago every other weekend. The trips were hard, but they bound us closer. Each shared moment a thread in our new tapestry. I kept writing in the journal, not just fears now, but hopes. I want to build a life with Noah. I want to be his home. One night, we went back to the Rusty Anchor, the bar where we'd met. Noah was quieter than usual, his eyes distant. "What's wrong?" I asked, sliding into the booth beside him. He took a deep breath. I've been thinking about us. About what happens if you never remember. My stomach twisted. But I nodded. And I don't care, he said, his voice fierce. I love you now. This you. I don't need the past. His words hit like a wave, washing away my doubts. I kissed him, right there in the booth, not caring who saw. It wasn't a memory, it was a choice. I love you too, I said, the words finally free. They weren't the same as before, but they were true. Noah's smile was brighter than the city lights. Took you long enough, he teased, but his eyes were wet. We spent the summer building, not rebuilding. We talked about the bookstore we dreamed of, sketching plans on napkins, laughing over silly names. We danced in our living room to Wonderwall, my clumsy steps matching his grace. I didn't remember the old moments, but these new ones were enough. Then came the call we dreaded. Michael's condition had taken a sharp turn. We flew to Chicago that night. The plane ride silent, Noah's hand gripping mine. At the hospital, Michael was awake, his smile faint but warm. You too, he said, looking at us. You're gonna be okay. He passed that night, surrounded by family. Noah broke in my arms, his sobs shaking us both. I held him, whispering words I hoped were enough, feeling his pain as my own. For the first time, I wasn't just a bystander in his life. I was his partner. The funeral was a blur of tears and quiet strength. Noah spoke, his voice steady as he shared stories of his dad's love, his humor, his stubborn hope. I stood beside him, my hand in his, proud and aching. Afterward, Mia pulled me aside. You're his rock now, she said. Don't forget that. I didn't. Back in New York, Noah grieved, but he didn't pull away. We leaned into each other, finding solace in small things: coffee in bed, walks in the park, late night talks about nothing and everything. My love for him grew, not a shadow of the past, but a light of its own. One evening, as we sat on our bench in Prospect Park, Noah turned to me. I want to marry you, he said, his voice steady. Not the old Elliot. You. Now. My heart stopped, then raced. I didn't have a ring, didn't have the past, but I had this moment. Yes, I said, pulling him close. Yes. We kissed under the oak tree, the carved E+N watching over us. It wasn't the life we'd planned, but it was the one we'd built, brick by brick, through pain and hope and love. Fall returned to New York, painting the city in fiery hues. Noah and I were engaged, a promise forged in the present, not the past. We didn't have a date yet, just a shared certainty that we wanted forever. But forever felt fragile, shadowed by my still broken mind. I loved Noah fiercely, but the gaps in my memory haunted me, a reminder of what I couldn't give him. We started planning the bookstore, a dream we'd resurrected from my lost past. We found a small space in the East Village, a fixer-upper with creaky floors and exposed brick. It's perfect, Noah said, his eyes bright as we toured it. We spent weekends painting walls, sanding shelves, imagining a future filled with books and coffee and us. It was a new memory, one we were writing together. But grief still clung to Noah, a quiet ache for his dad. I'd catch him staring at old photos, his fingers tracing Michael's face. He'd have loved this, he said one day, holding a picture of us at Coney Island. He always said you were my best decision. I pulled him close. wishing I could carry his pain. "I'm here," I said. The word's my mantra now. He nodded, leaning into me, and we stood there, holding each other in the half-painted bookstore. Dr. Ruiz noticed the change in us. "You're not just surviving," she said in a session. "You're thriving." She suggested a new exercise: write our story. Not the one we'd lost, but the one we were living. I started that night, my pen hesitant but honest. Noah is my compass. I don't know where I'm going, but I know I'm home with him. Noah wrote too, sharing his pages with me one quiet evening. Elliot's love is different now, but it's just as real. He fights for me every day, and that's enough. His words broke me open, love and guilt twisting together. I wasn't the man he'd fallen for, but I was the man he chose now. We decided to get married in the spring. A small ceremony in Prospect Park by our bench. Mia was our planner, sketching invitations with her artist's flair. "You're gonna make me cry at my own brother's wedding," she teased, showing us a drawing of us under the oak tree. I laughed, but my chest ached with gratitude. This family, this life fight was mine, even if I didn't remember choosing it. One night, I found a new letter in the box under the bed. It was from Noah, dated a week after the accident. "Elliot, I don't know if you'll ever read this, but I need you to know I love you. Even if you can't love me back right now, I'll wait." I clutched it, tears falling. He'd waited, through every doubt, every silence. And now I was here, loving him back. I showed him the letter, my voice shaking. "You never gave up," I said. "Never will," he replied, kissing me softly. It was a promise, one I believed. Winter came, and with it, a new challenge. The bookstore's lease hit a snag: zoning issues. The landlord said. We fought it, spending late nights with paperwork and lawyers. Noah's determination a fire that kept us going. "This is our dream," he said, his jaw set. "We're not losing it." I admired his fight, but I was scared. Money was tight, and my coffee shop job barely covered rent. Noah picked up freelance design work, his eyes red from late nights. I hated seeing him stretched so thin, but he never complained. "We're in this together," he said, and I believed him. One evening, as we sorted through bookstore plans, Noah pulled out a photo of us from before the accident. We were laughing, arms around each other, the Brooklyn Bridge behind us. "I don't need this anymore," he said, setting it aside. "I have you now." His words were a gift, freeing me from the weight of who I'd been. I kissed him, slow and deep, feeling the love we'd built. It wasn't perfect, but it was ours. By March, the bookstore was back on track, the zoning issue resolved. We celebrated with cheap wine and pizza, sprawled on the floor of our future shop. Noah raised his glass, his smile soft. "To us," he said, "and to starting over." "To us," I echoed, my heart full. I didn't need the past to know this was where I belonged. As spring approached, we finalized wedding plans. Mia designed our rings, simple silver bands with E+N engraved inside. "A new carving," she said, winking. I wore mine early, a promise I carried with me. The night before the wedding, Noah and I sat on our couch, nervous and giddy. "You sure about this?" he asked, half teasing. "Surer than I've ever been," I said, and it was true. I didn't remember falling in love with him the first time, but I'd fallen now, hard and real. The morning of our wedding dawned bright. The April air crisp with promise. Prospect Park was alive with spring cherry blossoms blooming. The oak tree by our bench standing tall. I wore a simple suit. Noah's ring heavy on my finger. A grounding weight. Mia had outdone herself, stringing fairy lights around the bench. A small arch of flowers framing the spot where we'd rebuild our love. Noah looked like a dream. His suit tailored. His eyes brighter than the sun. When he saw me, he grinned. The kind of smile that made my heart stutter. "You clean up nice," he teased, taking my hand. "You too," I said, my voice thick. I didn't remember our first moments, but this one I'd carry forever. Mia officiated, her voice warm as she spoke of love and resilience. Our friends and Noah's mom stood in a small circle, their faces soft with joy. I barely heard the words, too focused on Noah, on the way his hand fit mine, on the certainty in my chest. When it was time for vows, I went first, my voice shaky but sure. "Noah, I don't remember loving you before, but I love you now. Every day, you show me what it means to fight, to hope, to build something real. I choose you, today and always." His eyes glistened, his smile trembling. "Elliot, you're my home. You always were, even when you couldn't see it. I love you not just for who you were, but for who you are. Right here, right now." We slipped rings onto each other's fingers, the E+ end engraving a quiet promise. Mia pronounced us married, and Noah kissed me, soft and fierce, as cheers erupted around us. The world faded, and it was just us, two men who'd found each other twice. The reception was small, held in the bookstore's half-finished space. We danced to Wonderwall, my steps still clumsy. Noah's laugh bright in my ear. Mia toasted us, her sketch of our bench framed on the wall. "To love that doesn't give up," she said, and I felt the truth of it in my bones. That night, we lay in bed. The cities hum a soft backdrop. Noah traced the ring on my finger, his touch gentle. "We did it," he said, his voice soft. "We did," I said, pulling him close. "And we're just getting started." The bookstore opened a month later, its shelves filled with stories we'd chosen together. We called it Second Chances, a nod to our journey. Customers came, drawn by the cozy space and Noah's charm. I worked the counter, my coffee shop skills finally useful, while Noah designed flyers and planned readings. It wasn't perfect, money was still tight, and some days were chaos, but it was ours. One evening, as we closed up, Noah pulled me to the back, where a small shelf held our journals. "I found something," he said, handing me a page I didn't recognize. It was my handwriting, dated a year before the accident. "If I ever lose myself, Noah will find me. He always does." I looked at him, my throat tight. "You did," I said. "You found me." He kissed me, slow and deep, under the bookstore's soft lights. "And I always will," he said. Life moved forward. Not a straight line, but a winding path. Some days, I'd catch a Flickr scent, a song that felt like a memory, but I didn't chase them anymore. I had Noah, our bookstore, our life. The past was a shadow, but the present was light. On our first anniversary, we went back to our bench in Prospect Park. Noah carved a new date into the wood. Below our initials, April 15th, 26. "For this life," he said, his eyes meeting mine. "For this life," I echoed, my hand in his. I didn't remember the man I'd been, But I knew the man I was now, Elliot Carter. Noah's husband. A man who'd learned to love again. As we walked home, the city alive around us, I felt it, not a memory, but a truth. Love wasn't in the past I'd lost. It was in Noah's laugh, his touch, the life we'd built. Amnesia had erased my feelings, but Noah had brought them back. One goodbye, one choice, one moment at a time. And when he said goodbye that final time, years later, as we sat old and gray in our bookstore, I knew I'd loved him not because I remembered, but because I'd never stopped.